when I went in January 2011 to South Sudan to cover the referendum for independence, I didn't go there with the aim to photograph uh, any issues to do with mental health. And what happened is that I'm not a news photographer, and I arrived there, and there were lots of journalists and lots of photographers, and I was discussing with the journalists, how can we tell this story in a different way? And we were going down the road, and on the side of the road we saw a mentally disabled girl begging. And I said to my driver, who was also a journalist, I said to him, "What do you do in South Sudan with the mentally disabled? Given this country's been through 20 years of war, 2 million people have been killed, many people displaced." And he very casually replied, "We put them in prison." I said, "Okay, stop the car, let's go to the prison." So when we went into the prison, I saw these people shackled to the floor. Obviously it was a complete shock, but there was one young man who must have been in his early 20s, maybe late teens, who was sitting naked with a big, thick shackle around his ankle. And I tried to talk to him, and he didn't understand me, or couldn't understand me. And I photographed him, and it had a really big impact on me, because there was what I thought was a young, good-looking guy who had been incarcerated because he had a mental disability. And the difficult thing about that image and about the situation, and actually this project, is that I know he's still there 3 years later. I covered this issue on mental health in African countries. It was 10 countries in the end, and by the end I was really, really struggling, and I knew by country 7, 8 that I couldn't do it much more. People look at this work, and they say to me, what you should really do, and people in our industry, what you should really do is you really should have some signs of hope, because this is a bit depressing. You need to have, so people can sort of see through it. But it's kind of like, well, that's the point, actually, is that this is almost completely hopeless. I guess one of the main reasons why I'm doing this work is that mental health isn't neglected worldwide, but in these countries, it's completely neglected. Governments, aid agencies, society in general, these people are completely abused and neglected and put in prison. I mean, if these people were in prison because of their sexuality, because of their political beliefs, there'd be an international outcry. But they're there because in many cases, they were born with a disability. I mean, I can't think of much of a greater injustice than someone being locked up because they were born a certain way. Mental health is just not sexy enough for people to put money into, so they won't fund it. I think as the media, we go to these places of crisis, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, and we cover wars and famines and displacement. But when the peace treaty is signed, when the flood waters recede, when the famine's declared over, we leave and we consider the issue over. But obviously, if you've lived through that, it's not over. And while buildings and bones can repair, your psychological scars remain, and for a very, very long time. And so in the course of me doing this work, I was documenting charities who and then trying to promote their work, and a year later they'd close the program because they couldn't get funding. They've got so many competing priorities. And if that country is in war, well, when you're spending money on bullets and bombs, are you really going to worry about somebody who's got a mental disability? No. Most of my career, the last 15 years, has been about documenting human rights issues. And the thing with human rights abuses, and one of the reasons that they go on, of course, is that they're hidden. And I think that my job and the job of many of my colleagues is to shine some light on those issues and hopefully bring them to the world. And whether or not that creates any change, I'm not sure. But I think that the least we can do is let people know about it, and then nothing can happen without people knowing about it.